Hi! I'm going to talk about monsters today.
Monsters.
So I'd like to start with a parable. The parable of the Paperclip Maximizer. So this is a thought experiment from computer science where, say for example, in the not too distant future, you have some sort of a nano-robotic fabricator. Little nano-robots, tinier than you can see. And it can basically make anything that you want it to make. So you tell it, you got a lot of papers or something, got some papers to manage, and you tell the thing, make me a paperclip. And you give it some raw materials, so like some iron shavings or something like that. And so this little robot will take the materials that you gave it, and it'll make a paperclip for you. And voila! I've got a paperclip, so now I can clip my papers together, and job complete. Awesome. But say you've got lots of papers to manage. You've got like reams and reams of it. Say you're a grad student, for example, and you ended up with a lot of paper. And it just keeps coming. So you figure, well, I'm going to need a lot of paper clips. So you tell your magical nano-robotic fabricator to make me as many paper clips as possible, as fast as possible. Because you're going to need a lot of paper clips, so better make that as fast as possible. So the thing gets to work, and so it starts making paper clips, and so you end up with a paper clip, and you end up with another paper clip. And at first, it's just going at a standard rate. It's just making paper clips out of the raw materials that you've given it, one at a time. But the thing is, this nano-robotic fabricator is quite clever, you see. It has an advanced artificial intelligence behind it, and so it's thinking to itself like, so how am I going to make as many paper clips as possible, as fast as possible? I can only really make it at a linear rate right now, so it's just a straight rate of paperclip manufacture. But then it has a realization, I can innovate my style. These paper clips take a lot of steel to make, so why don't I make some less complicated paper clips? Okay, so it starts making some slightly cheaper paper clips, so it's able to use less of the materials to make a single paper clip. So it starts making those instead of the actual paper, the other paper clips. So okay, all right, we'll start clipping some stuff together. But then the next thing it realizes is that if I have more robots, I can work faster. And I can use some of the raw materials that I've been giving to make more robots. So it starts to do that. So the pile of iron shavings that you've given it starts to get a little bit smaller as it starts to make more and more robots. But now that it's got 2 robots, I can make paper clips twice as fast, so 2 paper clips per second. But then it keeps doing that, so 4 paper clips a second, 8 paper clips a second, 16 paper clips a second. Well, we've got a lot of paper clips now, so if we've got plenty enough to be able to manage our grad school number of papers. But the problem is, we didn't give this thing a end condition, and we also didn't strictly define what it counts as raw materials. So once it's made enough paper clips for all of the papers necessary, we haven't really told it to stop. So it's just going to keep going. And since it's been told to do it as fast as possible, it's also going to keep accelerating at this. So it starts making more and more and more, 16, 32, 64, 128, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, though, it's going to run out of raw materials. The pile of iron shavings that you've given it has run out. But the problem is it still doesn't know to stop at this point. So it's going to start innovating on that problem as well. And it starts to realize that, hey, there's some iron in the table that this robot is sitting on. If I take apart the table, I can make more robots, which can make more paper clips, which achieves my goal. So it does that. It starts to take apart the table on which the robot sits and makes it into paper clips. Now you've got a mound of paper clips. It's starting to get a little bit ridiculous. You've maybe walked out of the room to get a snack and you come back and, oh shit, my table's gone, and now I've got so many paper clips I can't even manage them. But it's not done yet. It starts to realize as well that the building that we're in has some iron in it as well. So it starts to take apart the nails and all the beam supports and whatnot that's in this building. And the walls start to shake because this robot has started making paperclips out of the building itself. And it's also accelerating, so it's getting faster and faster with every passing moment. So having walked into the room and seen this horrible scene, you decide, oh shit, I've fucked up here. I need to stop this thing before it goes wild. So you try and stop the machine. You intervene, you get to the controls, and you start trying to stop it. But the problem is, it sees you now as a barrier to achieving its goal. Because its goal is only to make paperclips, and you haven't told it anything other than to make paperclips. And when you try and stop it, it sees you as a threat to that goal. So it kills you. It stops you from stopping it from achieving its goal. And also you've got iron in your blood. So it starts to take your blood and drain the iron out of it and make paperclips out of you. So you can probably see where this is going. This is basically a world-ending event at this point. You've got a Paperclip Maximizer that has escaped its bounds, escaped all control, and it is now taking apart the iron core of the Earth and turning it into paperclips. By mid-afternoon, before anybody realizes it, before anybody can stop it, the entire planet has been converted into a gravitationally bound cloud of paperclips. There's a weird internet game if you want to play this Paperclip Maximizer game. It's actually kind of fun, but a little bit tedious at times. I'll link it in the description. Anyway, so the point of this story is that I mentioned yesterday about runaway systems, and this is an example of a runaway system. What we've got here is basically a utility monster. This is a thought experiment that's originally from Robert Nozick, that describes a system that gains utility or pleasure or its goal from consuming a resource that overrides the utility that a human would get. So whereas I'm getting utility from the iron in my blood, keeping me alive and oxygenating my brain and whatnot, this utility monster gains utility by taking that iron and turning it into paperclips. But the problem is that this utility monster gains, it's better able to utilize the iron than I am at achieving its goals. I kind of need that iron to live and just persist, but this thing is much, much faster and much, much better at using that iron to get what it wants. Why do I raise this? Well, it's kind of a parable for capitalism, or whatever economic system you want to call what we have now. The utility function of our economic system is make as much money as possible as fast as possible. It's a growth-based economic system. So we talk about GDP growth per year, which basically means that the productivity of the economy, the amount of money that it makes, always has to go up. Otherwise, we're either in a recession or a depression. The entire system stops working properly unless the GDP keeps going up, unless money keeps getting bigger and bigger. But the problem is that money doesn't really have a useful meaning. Yes, you can use it to buy things, you can use it to pay people to do stuff, but it doesn't have any inherent value. The value of $1 is basically a fraction of time that you can pay somebody to do a labor task. So for $15, I could pay somebody to do an hour worth of arbitrary labor, doing basically anything that's legal under our current system. What we end up with is a system that is maximizing for the amount of money that it makes. So rather than paperclips, we're maximizing money production. But the problem is you can make money doing a lot of different things. Money can be made by doing downright destructive things. You could take a virgin forest, one with ecological significance, one with basically sustainability significance for a local community or even for the global community. And as it is, as a forest, it has zero value, like no monetary value. But if you cut down that forest, if you pave the land that the forest was on, and you build a strip mall, then you make a certain amount of money out of that thing. You can extract value from this resource that was a forest and is now just raw land. And you can make money doing a lot of other things too that are destructive or irrational or just downright meaningless. If you can make money digging potholes and filling those potholes back in again, that too can make you money, which counts technically as economic growth. This is a problem, obviously. Now, money having arbitrary value is just a malformed utility function. If we're trying to maximize for that utility function, any number of different things could be done that are destructive or useless in order to do that. But where it becomes a monster is that this utility function now overrides our rationality as human beings. We're not really making democratic decisions about what we're doing with our resources. We're letting this market, this utility maximizer, make the decisions for us. So rather than us deciding, this forest is kind of nice. I would like to keep the forest. I would like to have these trees so that it'll, let us survive, and all the happy trees and forest animals can run around and have happy lives. But instead of us deciding to do that, the economic answer overrides any decision-making that we might have. So even though an overwhelming majority of people might want to keep the forest or have a life that isn't dominated by climate change and pollution, the fact that you can make money making destructive decisions for the environment means that any amount of decision-making power that we might have is overridden by these economic forces. So how do we deal with that? How do we disassemble this thing? Well, I don't really know. Part of the issue is that it is beyond our control, and it's not like we could just grab a guy and be like, "Listen, you stop destroying the environment," because no such guy exists. It's distributed in the system. It's kind of like a haunting more than an actual entity itself. Part of the other trouble in addressing this issue is that we don't really have a vocabulary that's capable of talking about issues like these. We can discuss the utility maximizer as a utility monster in order to conceptualize what's going on, but these things are bigger than our current experience. We live in a world of rooms and grounds and skies and cats and other objects like that, but these things are bigger than any one person, any one group of people, and they're not even really tangible. Like, you can't point to the utility maximizer monster of capital. You can see its effects, you can describe its effects, and you can act on those symptoms, but you can't actually touch the thing itself. Timothy Morton refers to this as like a hyperobject. It's like an object, like a paperclip, but it's not a physical object, nor is it an intellectual object. It's something that pervades and passes through and becomes part of everything. Like, I am a part of this utility monster, as are you, as is this video, as is the words that are coming out of my mouth. We're all in it, whether we want to be or not. So what are we supposed to do to either get out of it or disrupt it? Well, that's really the hard part, and that's kind of what I'm trying to work on here. So I don't know, maybe you've got some ideas. Maybe we can work through this together. So thanks for listening. Catch you later.